Welcome to another episode of Behind the Desk, where we do an in-depth with VP, CEOs, business leaders, and innovators around the globe. Today on Behind the Desk, we're sitting down with Cameron Labrie. He is the president and co-owner of Syndicate Financial, a fast-growing financial service organization built on high-volume lead generation, proven scripts, and relentless focus on helping families protect their futures. Cameron has built and led sales teams in life insurance and financial services, turning cold-faced leads into booked appointments and real production at scale. In this conversation, we'll dig into how he got started, how Syndicate's script-driven model works, and where he sees technology, especially in the automation, playing a role in taking his team's performance to the next level. Cameron, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Welcome. I appreciate it, Brandon. Excited to be here, man.
Excellent. Give us a brief introduction of yourself in your own words and what you do and represent as a business.
Awesome. Yeah, so my name's Cameron Labrie. Like he said, gave me a great introduction there. President and co-owner of Syndicate Financial. Been in the space for about 5 years, just super blessed in the space, gotten to lead some awesome people, building a great organization. Had some trials and tribulations in that journey as well. So just super excited to have my brain picked here today and kind of answer some questions that you may have for me, Brandon.
Love that, man. So Kim, welcome again. Take us back to the beginning. How did you first get into the insurance and financial services space, and what hooked you enough to say, yes? What was the actual? Right?
Sure. So my journey is not a flashy one. So I actually have a degree in exercise physiology. And why does that relate to this? Well, I got that degree. I was really excited at the time. I worked in an outpatient center. I just finishing my college degree, and I was working with like professional or semi-pro athletes, D1 athletes. I'm like, this is what I want to do. I love it. Had interviewed at some places where I was getting out of college, and I was super excited. I'm like, this is awesome. And then I got my first job offer, and it was $35,000, and that just wasn't going to cut it. Especially, I live in Maine. Cost of living is much more than $35,000. So kind of had to go back to the drawing board. I had been a server and bartender for several years. Did that in the summers, which is great because it teaches you outside of just handling stress. If anyone listening to this has ever been a server or bartender, I'll tell you one thing: it can be a little bit stressful at times, but you learn talking with people, the business of people, right? So, which was super helpful. So anyway, I'm bartending one night, and this couple and a couple of people come in, and they write on this receipt, hey, actually I still have it in my office, and it says, hey, we've got an opportunity to make $1,200 to $1,500 a week. Give me a call. And he left me a good tip for the time. I think $15 or $100, which he was like a small check. It was like the size. It was actually how much he had paid for the meal. He basically gave me that as a tip. So I was like, all right. So I texted the guy, hey, what's this about? Right. I said to him, I'm a little bit interested. It's going to have to be more than that. I make that much money bartending a week. And he said, well, it can be more than that. And it probably will be more than that, but I don't like to put more than that because people don't typically believe me. So I was like, okay. So I was like, this sounds weird. But he said, you have to get a life insurance license. So I said, all right. So my dad is in the financial services space. And I called him up and said, Dad, what is this? Tell me about this. He said, well, if you got to get a life insurance license, he said, it's legit. Like, it's not like a scam. Like, you're selling real things, real services, real products. So I was like, all right. So I called this guy back. Hey, can I get the license? Like, how does it work? He's like, yeah, I'm going to cover it for you. So funny enough, he said, you got 2 weeks to do it. And I was like, man, I'll do it. But like, I'm making really good money. I was making really good money at the time. And the only thing I regret, and there's like always a couple of regrets, but this is probably my number one regret in this whole business. I wish I started maybe 3 months earlier. So I start this course. I kind of just take my time on it. I do a little bit of time, and then actually I have to keep extending it because you have a certain amount of time to do it. I finally got it done. I called him up, said I did. He's like, can't believe you did. I thought we were never going to see you. So anyway, I get the license, get the life insurance license back in August. It was like right around my birthday, August like 20th, 2021. Yeah. So, and I call him up, and he's like, yeah, we're going to get you onboarded. Great. So I get onboarded. I start hitting the phones. I was at this this company called Globe Life at the time, captive company, which anyone who knows anything about insurance, Globe Life, American Income Life, what do you want to call it? We only had a couple products to sell. I'll tell you, the leads weren't very good. So you had to get really good on the phones. So kind of fast forward a little bit. I quit my job bartending. I'm like, I got to go all in on this, right? I'm seeing people there make really, really good money. So I go all in, struggle for a little bit. I think my third month in, I made 5 figures in income, and I was like, okay, that's crazy. Which is at the time I was 24 years old. So I'm like, that's a lot of money. So I continue on with it. I very quickly realized that the leadership there was not what I thought was great. So ended up branching off to this other company, got in a brokering with a business partner. And we went off, we did our own thing, brought a bunch of people with us. Actually, a kind of piece of advice to anyone out there: people don't leave bad businesses, they don't leave bad organizations, they leave bad leaders, right? So there's a lot of people who are actually still there, killing it, making a lot of money, but the leadership we had the team I was with was just not great. So move on to brokering, contract with this other company. Kind of the same deal. Sold a lot of business. I mean, I made a lot of money, and kind of realized this is not a place where there's great systems. I didn't really feel like I had autonomy over my business. So eventually kept soul searching, finally found a place where it's like, hey, you have autonomy over everything. Ended up partnering with a guy. Now my business partner, Troy, now we've created this company together, Syndicate Financial. And what's been really cool about that whole journey from start to now is, like, I've seen the bad leadership, I've seen the bad leads, I've seen bad systems, I've seen all these bottlenecks, right? And so it's allowed me and him and I to create this business where we've basically taken other people's problems and provided solutions, right? So when I started, I was in the business of clients, and now I'm in the business of agents, right? So that's what's allowed us to grow very quickly and handle a lot of bottlenecks. Anything from, like, anyone who's been in my space will understand onboarding is probably a massive, one of the biggest bottlenecks for people. We've solved that. Verified lead sources, generating our own leads. We know how to do a lot of that. We've partnered with the best people in the space when it comes to creating and building CRMs and working with AI. So if we either build it or we work with the best person we can find to build it and just solve a lot of those problems. So that's kind of my story now, Brandon. I know kind of long-winded, but that's the story.
No, that's perfect. Cam, a lot of people in that industry have had, I'm sure, very similar experiences with leadership as well. So it's great to see that, not only at a young age, you saw the potential and the path to success, but you took advantage of it and then became the leader that you walked away from to really represent a good business. So that's incredible to hear. Tell me a little bit, before Syndicate Financial, what did your early years in sales really look like? What were some of the key lessons or painful mistakes that shaped how you lead today?
Oh man, if I go over all of them, we'll be here all day.
How about one that stands out?
God, a lot of salespeople, I think you've got to be super unemotional. I think one thing I had to learn very quickly is stoicism. I think I grew up in a house of, and I love my parents. Didn't have like a bad childhood by any means, but they're pretty emotional people. And so the first time I had a chargeback, or the first couple times I had a no. I mean, I remember I was talking with my fiance last night, who's been like the best in all this, allows me to do me and supports me, and maybe tells me when I'm not doing the best I can be, the best version of myself as a leader. And I would get super emotional. And so learning to understand, like, if you're swinging for home runs, you're going to get some strikes, right? So that's a big lesson. Grit. You're probably going to get knocked down more than you get up. I always love the statistic of Warren Buffett. He was actually doing this with my agency yesterday. And I said, guys, you know Warren Buffett. Everyone's like, oh yeah, I know Warren Buffett, billionaire. And I said, you guys know how many stocks he's traded? They're like, oh, I have no idea. I said, about 600, 650. So how many do you think made him money? They're like, oh, 20, 30. So it was 7. 7 stocks. So learning that you're going to get told no, you have to keep getting through it, going through the hard stuff. And I think if I had one more lesson is that your ability to handle stress, what you think is stressful now, becomes laughable later. There's almost nothing where it's that bad. We live in I personally think, the greatest country on planet Earth, the greatest place to make money, with the highest GDP. You can grow business extremely fast here. I was talking to a couple from Canada a couple days ago, and they're actually just getting their business into the United States, and their business has almost doubled overnight because they're here. I mean, most of my family is from Canada originally, and it's like, if you're in the United States, like, just take a step back and be grateful for that, because it's not that bad. Your worst situation in the United States is someone's best situation somewhere else. So if you can remember that and be grateful, which I've really had to work on that when I first started, you'll realize you're in a good spot. So those are kind of the big three. I hope someone could take something away from that.
How did Syndicate Financial come together with you and your partner, and how did you end up as the president and co-owner, and in that role specifically today?
So it's a good question. So at the time, I was at when I was leaving the former company before Syndicate, I actually knew someone who was at the place I was at before, and he's like, I'm working with this guy. And so I come over, and Troy, actually, and he had another person he was doing business with at the time with Syndicate, and they flew me in and into Kentucky, and I go into their office, and I remember walking around there, and I said, this is great. You guys have a lot of great things, but I was thinking, I like the people. I just didn't see it being sustainable. So about a month later, Troy calls me, and he said, what do you think about everything? I said, do I have permission to speak freely? Yeah, you have permission to speak freely. Everything's going to crumble for you in the next 60 days. So I said to him, and I'm not, some clairvoyant by any means, but I remember walking through there. I didn't see a lot of hardworking individuals. I didn't see anyone who felt there was like a purpose and a vision. I felt like there's no vision to the company. There was a lack of leadership, and not that, like, Troy's a great leader, but it's more of like, he does a lot of the business side of it. He's not doing the front facing sales side. And the person who was supposed to be doing that, just great guy, just wasn't it. So my prediction, my hypothesis did end up coming true. They just didn't understand how to sell. They weren't trained. They weren't trained sustainably in a way that actually, one, made them believe in what they were doing, but two, made them great salespeople. So calls me up 20, 30 days later and is like, hey man, can you take on all the training and sales here? Everyone's going to be coded through you. I'll get the override. You handle the rest, which, if you know anything about this, we get overrides. I said, yeah, I'll do that. He said, what do you think we need to do to build a big business? I said, based on my experience and based on what I've seen, you got to have great training, great recruiting. You got to build a lot of leaders. So last year, we've gone to work on that. Pretty quickly, double, triple, quadrupled the sales. No thanks to, me and Troy working together on that. Got one of my other guys, Nick. He's done really well. And then eventually, it was kind of like, hey, he's like, I want to partner with you. I think we can build something great together. So I was like, all right, 50-50. We'll get married in business and let's do it. And so, we decided to do that in the last 6 months. It's been great. Been able to, like, knowing that we both are like, all right, this is what we're going to build together. And now, it's just continuing to, like, that conversation I had with him. And he's just so much better at, like, building systems. I'm great with people. Not that he's not great with people, but I'm great with people and training people and building relationships. His strong suit, not that it's not that, like I said, but it's building the back end operations and technology. So all the he basically, I would put it this way: he builds the building, I fill the building. Does that make sense? Right? Like, he builds a skyscraper, I put people in it. So
Absolutely.
that's kind of how we've built and kind of our story together.
Man, you're a true entrepreneur when it comes to that. Seeing an opportunity, having a voice, being able to recognize where there's just difficult conversations that need to be had, or even just brought up. That's really what we started this podcast for. And it's fascinating to find somebody in your shoes that said, hey, look, I truly see it. I may not be, like you said, the clairvoyant, but hey, look, there's a problem and I may have a solution. So I love that. Let me ask you this, for someone who's never heard of Syndicate before, how do you describe what you do and the kind of agents and clients you serve?
I would say, oh man, that's a great question. So I think what we do let's start with agents, because there's kind of two facets to this, right? So agents, we help them solve problems that no one else is willing to do. We listen, we give them a voice, right? And we amplify their voice. Think of us like a bullhorn for their voice, right? So they come in, hey, we're having this issue. Let's build it. Let's take care of it. One of the issues that we just had an agency come in with us, and they came in as like, oh, we didn't really have great training. And I think we actually have already pretty good training, but they were like, hey, we'd like to add this. Great, let's do it. Immediately we implemented that, right? Action, money, there's a great saying, money loves action, right? Wealth loves patience, but money loves action. In order to get the money first, you gotta love action. So we take those ideas. Now, my big thing as a leader is I want you to explain to me why. So if they can explain to me why, we're like, great, that makes sense. You be able to kind of substantiate, this is a great thing we need to do. And then we give them that voice. Another thing's been contracting and all that type of stuff. As far as clients, this is going to sound almost ridiculous, but just being ethical. Just being ethical.
Doesn't sound ridiculous.
Just it's in this business, it is though. It really is. And so putting the client in the right product for them, not overselling it, right? The way I teach people to sell is that they don't sell. It's just a conversation. It's something the clients will do. I have to get this set up. No, you don't. But what does it look like if something happens? And just teaching my agents, my people, the leaders to do the same thing. How find that problem, let them truly paint the picture. And we've got some advanced sales techniques we obviously teach them, but clients leave it happier. We have a higher retention. Our agents who come over have a higher retention because they're doing the right thing for the client, which is great for us, not so great for our competitors who don't, because I love when I get to see a client who wasn't done right by and say, hey, we're gonna do the right thing. They feel that immediately. I hear what's funny is when we get to agents in our organization, and you'll hear it, I'll listen to a lot of sales calls, and you can tell the clients, I hear it all the time, different sales calls, right? For some reason I trust you. People feel energy. People feel that you're trying to do the right thing, right? Whether you believe in energy, movement of energy, but even over the phone, people feel that and know that you're trying to do the right thing by them. So that's, I think, kind of what our value proposition is on both ends of that spectrum. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think too many times, especially in that industry, which gets a knock because of people just don't understand the value of what you're providing them until they need it, right? You don't know what you need until you don't have it. And to build that and take that consultative approach is one of the key factors of success, I think, in any sales role anymore. And if you really break it down, one of the things I used to do in my sales roles as being so successful was a consultation, right? We don't need you to buy from us. You need to buy from us. Mm-hmm. And I always looked at it as hey, look, if this doesn't fit, this isn't a marriage, like you said, there's no reason for it to work. So excellent that you've taken that approach to really guiding your reps, right? And your leaders to, hey, look, this isn't a sale, build the trust, to do the right thing ethically. That's incredible. Truly,
yeah.
To you.
It's hard. You'd be surprised how many times you get bad habits though, where people are like, oh, I've heard the big thing now in insurance is IULs, right? It's oh, I got this. It's dude, you're not that way. You're going to screw that client over. And sometimes just they don't know. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Give us a snapshot of Syndicate today. How many agents are you supporting? What markets are you in? And what does a good month look like for you in terms of volume?
Well, that actually, as of this week, so we have about 75 licensed agents. We have about 100 licensed agents coming over in March. So we'll have 175 licensed agents in total by end of March. Couple agencies are pretty unhappy where they're at. And remember at the beginning of the call, people don't leave bad businesses, they leave bad leadership. It was a bad leadership situation. Actually, it's been somewhat refreshing to hear hey, this happened to me. That's, so we've all kind of been able to be in that like we've handled that adversity together. I've handled it before and kind of provide them how I handled it.
Yeah.
As far as volume, right now we do $250,000 volume monthly, based on the agencies that are coming and using our tools. We'll do about 500 to 650,000 by March, April, just based on what their volume is and their averages. So I'd like to see us do $1 million a month by end of the year, but that's realistically what our numbers look like right now. It's been a blessing, man. It's been a blessing. I mean, it was funny. I was calling one of the agents last night, and when I was talking to those agencies, they were like, "Yeah, we got this young guy. He's like 25," and I'm like, "Yo, like, I'm 28 years old." And I said, I was just having a conversation, like, "Wow, it's crazy, like, to be, under 30." There's, you guys, I don't know if there's these memes going around that a lot of my friends share with each other, and it's just like this like little dweeb with all these like super smart people. It's like how it feels to be in a meeting at 30. It's like, well, it's different when you're the one leading the meeting. But one thing, because of that, it's been great because I have a ton of energy. I have a lot more time. And the other thing is, I'm constantly trying to learn. So it's like, that wisdom isn't an age thing. I've learned wisdom is not an age thing. I've met 75-year-olds who know less than 20-year-olds. It's just how much time are you trying to learn? And the piece of advice I'd give people is stop learning, you stop earning. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Sorry, long-winded, but that's where we're at right now as far as volume.
No, it's great. You're growing a business. It's awesome to see you're going to double plus, here in the next 30 days or less. So awesome to show the growth and the potential. And I don't see you guys stopping there. Personally, knowing you, I think you guys will be at that million by the end of the year, if not first quarter next year. So super exciting to see that kind of momentum. Walk us through the journey of a typical lead, right? From the moment that Facebook lead shows up, right, and the form is submitted to a booked appointment on an agent's calendar. Where are the critical points where things can fall apart?
Oh, man. So the first time that lead is generated, the first 5 minutes is where it can fall apart. First 5 minutes. There's a statistic that just came out yesterday from one of our vendors who generates a lot of leads that we partnered with. They said it's like an 80% higher chance of booking a call if it's within 5 minutes of calling them. So being present, or being able to call them immediately. The next thing is once you call the lead, you get them on the phone. Great. Let's say we get them on the phone, is knowing your objections and being good on the phone, right? Being good on the phone. So for example, I see a lot of agents, they'll go in and be like, "Hey, Joe, this is Cam. I'm calling." It's like, dude, no one wants to do business with you, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's like, I teach agents a lot of times, like, call them like you care and with a little bit of energy. It's like, "Hey, Joe, this is Cam. I'm the underwriter assigned to that final expense case you had put some information in. I see that your address is this." It's a much different approach. People want to do business with people who actually care about what they're doing. And then the other thing is just once you get them on the phone and you can be good on the phones and get through objections is getting a booked appointment. We teach them framing, how to frame it. Like, so we book the appointment, and at the end of the call when they're booking, I say, "Hey, Joanne, are you someone who typically misses appointments?" "No." "Okay, great." And something I've just started teaching recently is that I'll have the agents send a text and say, "Hey, Joanne, I was just looking at your case. It looks like I've gone over a bunch of different options for you. I haven't heard back from you yet from that confirmation. You're still ready to go over everything tonight. Just let me know beforehand so that we can go over everything, right? Just make sure it's confirmed." That's helping the show rate a lot, but it also shows that you put work into them. People feel like people will show more likely to do an appointment if they feel like you've already done work for them. And I also teach my agents to, like, even if you have nothing on your calendar, you got to fake it till you make it. And I'm not one of those guys like, get a fake Rolex. No, I'm talking about fake your energy till you've got that, right? Fake that, yeah, I'm busy. You know what? At some point, every doctor, dentist, lawyer, they had an empty calendar. But if you act like you got a full one, you'll eventually get it. So I say, I'll show them an example. I'll be like, "Hey, look at this. My calendar's typically booked 2-3 days out." And I'll say, "Look at this day." And I've done this before. I'll book that calendar, and they'll be like, well, you had nothing booked, but you told them that everything was booked until 5 p.m. I said, yeah, and watch. And then that night they show up, because it's like they know, or they feel that there's other people. People want to buy from busy people, right? And the reverse of that, the busy people that you sell are always the ones who have money, right? I have a saying, you better busy or broke, busy or broke. So you're not busy, act busy, pretend to be busy. And you're working with busy people, that's good. They're making money.
Okay.
And then you get into the sales process. That's a whole other thing. We take an hour on that. But that's from the beginning to setting an appointment, and then they get to sit down with an agent. They do the consultation process. They go through, ask them some questions, go over the products, and then it's into an application. We've really got some great carriers, so we can get, if you're really good at your job and the client really needs it. I've seen, agents get in and out of an appointment in 20, 25 minutes. Client feels good, they feel good, and they've got coverage approved right in the spot.
When you guys look at your top producing agents versus the average ones, what are the main behaviors or habits that separate them, especially in how they use your scripts?
Positivity. They're extremely positive. They could have a bad day, and they could have a terrible day, like the worst day, outside of like obviously someone in their family dying, but like a bad day in the business, right? And they call you up and it's like, hey man, like how's it going? Like, they're just happy. They're not a victim. They're not in their own head. They know the rebuttals. That's the big thing. They know that they're master of the rebuttals. They know what the client's going to say before the client can even say it. They know the products incredibly well. They're very knowledgeable. But again, they're positive. They're super positive, and they're actually pretty humble. They can take coaching. But a lot of them, I'll be honest, they need a ton of coaching. They're really, really good at their jobs. So that's I think the three separators, if you will, the three things that they're very good at, opposed to a lower level agent.
Do you think, in a shorter answer, not a long one, I'm just thinking very simple, do you think that the speed to lead follow-up cadence that you guys are offering and the prerequisite, in essence, message that gets out is actually getting worked? Or do you think that there are opportunities and leads that fall through your cracks?
I think there's always leads that fall through your cracks.
Is that because agents don't reach out, or because there is a miscommunication from recipient to agent?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, your agents are never going to be perfect. They're human. And I mean, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, I think we've got good systems, but systems can always get better. So I mean, that's the way I'd answer that,
Cool. Right now, where do you feel the most friction or inefficiencies in your process? Is it connecting with new leads fast enough, keeping up with follow-ups, or coaching agents on how to run the scripts?
I don't think it's anything with follow-ups or the clients. I think any of the agents that I've trained, once they get past that hump, they're good. But I do think training new agents, we've gotten a lot better at that. But like a teacher, right? And an educator, you've got to understand that every person learns differently. And so I think the biggest piece of friction, I would say right now, is making sure that a lesson gets heard and implemented by as many people as possible.
Interesting.
So there's like different types of learning, like kinesthetic learning. There's people who learn through numbers. There's people who learn through auditory learning, through visual. So trying to combine all those things. But I think we could always be better at teaching, right? Okay. And I have a saying too with the leaders I teach them: is not what was said, it what was heard. And I could say something to you and someone else, and you may hear the different thing. And it's like, how can we find a way to where you both heard the message I wanted to hear, not what you needed, what you wanted to hear,
Yeah, absolutely. Some people totally look at scenarios and questions completely differently, and one hears busy work, the other one hears productivity, right? So
and some of that's their perspective on life, but for sure.
There's a ton of noise right now going on in the industries, really about like AI and sales and that kind of stuff. From your perspective, what parts of your world feel like they could actually benefit from a smart automation system without losing that human relationship with the client?
I would say anything texting or emailing, anything that's written. You can program it to sound very much like you. I don't think you lose a lot. In fact, I think it allows you to multiply yourself. It allows yourself to delegate. That's how any business has grown. If it was just me selling, I could only do so much. If I can get as many agents selling, that's even better. And if I can get as many agents to delegate as well, then we've created a monster. Where I don't think it's great is that you've started to see a lot of people use it for business to consumer, trying to actually call people. I would probably not at this point use it for any sort of customer service. I think voice, when it's, when they're talking to someone on the phone, I don't think it's great. Where I do think it's also great is analytics. You can take analytics and have it find patterns. Like, it's going to be able to find patterns faster than you and I ever could. Yeah. And maybe like a lot of like writing lessons and like shortening things and writing in a way that's digestible. But anything that, people are like, oh, I've got it. So it sets appointments. I'm like, I've used them. They're okay. They're not great. Anyone who's under 50, not to, profile age, some people obviously over that, but generally speaking, anyone under the age of 50 is going to immediately know. So that's where I see it's great, where I can see it not being so great.
Absolutely. In fact, I just had a podcast with somebody that really resonated with that age gap, because you have the generation that's grown up with technology that has found ways to, avoid even going to the grocery store to buy groceries, right? But there's also that generation that's trying to adapt, right? And the ones that will never adapt. So I 100% can see your point where, like, hey, without that human interaction, which I don't think will ever get replaced in your industry.
No,
it's always going to be there.
I don't think you will. You've probably seen those ads with for Ethos.
Yeah.
You've seen those ads. They were actually, I think they went on the Super Bowl, and they've tried to do it and they just can't do it. In fact, I think they've only just gotten more agents. So exactly.
If you could wave that magic wand and have some sort of an AI appointment engine running behind the scenes for Syndicate, what would you want it to do for your team every single day?
Every single day. If I could figure out how to find the language in which it was able to book more appointments than it already does through text, I would love that. Because we make money in appointments run, not appointments set, right? So if I could get them to set more appointments, maybe a little bit of optimizing calendars for certain agents, but then they've got to actually apply it. But definitely setting more appointments and being a little bit not as rigid with its language and being able to understand where someone's coming from and almost like read it a little. Sometimes I think what makes us human is emotion, and I think it's not great at cracking a joke. I'll just say that. And I think sometimes, like, I've gotten responses from people by sending them a GIF or GIF or whatever you call them. Be like, hey, it'll be like, hello. It's just like, and AI, from what I've seen, isn't great at that yet. So if we could wave a magic wand and basically take my brain and 100% put it into it, we would see massive conversion and no appointment set.
Let's imagine a system that actually reads your scripts, fires off instant on-script text to every new lead, follows up automatically, 48 to 72 hours, and then scores and routes only the best conversions to your closers. How would something like that change the way your agents spend their time?
I mean, they would make more money. Everyone would make more money, right? I mean, they would just be sitting in a point. Actually, I think some of them would be overwhelmed. You have to increase your sales force even more, and you'd be more attractive for people to come over because they're like, hey, you're telling me I don't have to do all the stuff that sucks, which is dialing or knocking doors, which we don't knock doors at all, but dialing, emails, cold outreach, whatever it may look like. Obviously, we've got leads coming in, but if you're actually just running appointments, I think you could double, triple, quadruple overnight.
Dude, that's really well sped. In a past life, I was in the insurance world, as you know, but that was one of the hardest things, and wasting time. You would have people at schedule, and then they would never even be at their house or keep the door closed. So that knocking doors, you guys are in a virtual world of knocking, and per se, and captivating audiences. So yeah, I mean, that could probably, I could see you seeing that as a massive benefactor in that world. On the coaching side, right? Because you are you, and Cam is hard to duplicate, right? If we could multiply you by 100, I'm sure you would just blow up and be at that $1 million a month immediately. What would it mean for your basically for you as a leader? If you had something summarizing calls, showing where agents drift from the script, giving you quick bullet points, coaching notes instead of you just listening to hours of.
God, that would increase. That would allow me to do more day to day. I mean, to kind of give you an example, I like that question. So I actually am. One of the things when I coach agents, and I say it all the time, I said every single one of my agents or every single one of you guys, I don't like to say my when I'm in front of them because I don't want them to feel like I own them. That's not how it works. We work together, not for me, right? I say every one of you guys who sent me recordings, and I do it over with you almost immediately. If you implement that, you're writing business, right? And so I get recordings sent to me, and oftentimes they CC me in with their leader, their manager. And I really try to listen to as many as possible. The way I typically do it is I review the call and I do a preview. So I review what their call was like. All right, let's preview what the next call needs to look like compared to this. So that's time consuming. That's 30 minutes to an hour. I'm always on calls with agents, which I love, by the way. By the way, anyone who's like getting in a sales organization, kind of quick tangent, I'll go back to this. I looked at my my phone. It tells you how many hours I'm on the phone on average 49 and a half hours a week. 49 and a half hours a week. That's how, and people are like, oh, I worked 42 hours this week. Like, bro, I was on the phone that much. So like, that's what it takes to build something great. So anyway,
yeah.
But that's my point though, is like I'm on with agents all the time, whether it be Zoom or on the phone. God, we would be able to just improve so many more people so much quicker. It's just, yeah.
I will tell you from experience of being in there, that was one of the hardest things. I've been in call centers, right?
Yep.
Way back when I graduated college, needed a quick job. I was in a call center. And one of the hardest things as I moved very quickly into the management role was sitting and listening to those calls, finding out what they did wrong, how they said it, what they could have improved on. I can't even imagine when you guys start ramping up and bringing those 100 people on, you know, the leaders that are going to be pulled away from the calls, the actual live sales calls that are now doing reviewing. So yeah, I agree. If you did have something in that place, man, what an impact that would make for not only you, but your entire organization.
For sure. I just on that though, one thing I have them do is like, I don't want to hear you, like, because the agents are like, well, can I hear the close? And I'm like, I don't want to hear the close. The only time I want to listen to when they're closing is if they have a retention issue or the policy, the policy size are really small, like they're not having big checks, which if they really don't have a lot of issues once they're selling. But what I've done is like, give me your worst fit. And that's helped a little bit. But if we could take all of those and be like, here, bullet point. Here's what they said. Here's where they went off the script here, right? And so now you're able to look at eight sits, 8 appointments versus 1, and that gives them 8 times more input, 8 times more input to have and take, and then have 8 times more output, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's where I think it would be just massive, you know.
I mean, as you think about bringing new agents into Syndicate, over 100, right, and then plus, right, how important is it to have a plug-and-play system that actually handles a lot of the heavy lifting on follow-up so new people can ramp faster and not waste leads?
Super duper important. Efficiency is key. Efficiency is key. Efficiency is key. Efficiency is key. I could say it so much, right? Yeah. It's if you're not trying to utilize technology right now, and you're in my space, I will beat you. Like, I'm just going to beat you. Like, I'm not trying to beat you. That's not a zero-sum game. There's enough clients to go around, but you are missing out big time. It makes it so much easier to get appointments. It makes it so much easier for the agents to see the follow-ups, to know who they've sold, to do the policy reviews. I've had some of my biggest checks come from policy reviews. As I've built my book of business, I myself have a couple $1 million book of business of clients myself. having something to go back and look at and do those policy reviews and, hey, happy birthday, this or that, right? It's huge, and it makes agents feel safe. Actually, it makes them feel like, all right, this is like a well-oiled machine. All I got to do is just get in the car and turn it on and drive it, right? As opposed to putting the car together. So
yeah, great, man. Let's look out over the next 3 years, right? What does the growth look like for Syndicate? Are you focused more on adding agents, increasing production per agent, or expanding into new products, or all of the above?
for all of the above, let's focus kind of each one real quick. Definitely expanding agents. One thing that we're more focused on is kind of building our offshoot of this, which is called Syndicate Technologies, and white labeling all our systems. Got one of the guys who I know works with me. He had mentioned a kind of idea like, oh, we need to. Name's Fred, just the man. And he said, being kind of like a brand that people can utilize to plug and play their agents, but maybe they feel even more autonomy. That's a big thing for us. I think we'll get a lot of revenue and help a lot of people that way. It's no different than when you go get I think Pepsi, right, or can of Coke, whatever, and it says owned by Frutile. It's the same thing, right? Like you want to have all these different businesses. If they're powered by us, right, then we're making a lot of money. But we've kind of spread and impacted more people. As far as agents, I mean, I'd like to. That kind of just goes right back into that. I'd like to have agencies. But if we're building agencies that are super successful and doing millions and millions of dollars, and they're powered by our technologies and what we've built, then we've done a great job. And then as far as products, currently working on that. We've got a partnership with a company called Advisors Excel, working on building slowly. It's not my number one thing. I'm pretty focused on making sure all the agents are super happy and making sure our production is about $1 million a month is where I'll start really. This will be kind of my next big project. But adding more retirement solutions. We can already do fixed index annuities. It's not a big moneymaker for us right now, but adding fixed index annuities and actually getting into securities as well. But right now it's like, let's build the big book of business of life insurance. It's got as many people doing it, and then teaching these agents how to work them into these higher level products.
For someone listening who might want to work with you guys, either as an agent or in another capacity, what kind of people or partnerships are you actually most interested in as you guys build Syndicate's next chapter?
You got to be a good person. We can feel that pretty immediately. You have to be someone who wants to build a big business, and someone who is I would say an outside of the box thinker, right? You have value to offer, not only in what you can bring with the production, but as someone who can bring ideas to the table as well, so we can implement those, and has a vision of just solving problems for people. That's, a lot of people always look at the money. I look more as you as a person. I really don't care about how much volume you've done. I care about how people really perceive you is one, but not only how people perceive you, how are you when you win, how are when you lose. And if you're a good person, the money is going to come anyway, and it's going to be sustainable. If you're a jerk, you're going to lose it anyway. It's just a matter of time when that dam releases.
Very well put, man. And truth be told, I think so much of that industry, you're right. It's like, oh, look what I've brought to this business, when it's like, no, I want to know, could I actually sit next to you and have a good conversation, and you're a good person? How many lives, I remember us usually talking about this in the past, how many lives have you protected, and how many people have you rescued or saved from actually feeling that burden if something unexpectedly happens?
For sure.
Great,
100%.
Great outlook.
Appreciate
Kim,
that.
As a leader, right, as somebody who went from the restaurant world into a sales role that grew into, a director of sorts, and then now you are a co-owner and assistant, in essence, to the, full business, right? Not just a portion of it, president. What advice would you give to the next generation who are either in their classes, whether they're young or old, right? Because we've known this, that there is no age gap between when people decide they're going to start or not in this industry. what advice would you give them getting into it that has helped you that maybe you've heard from somebody else? And what's one daily habit that they need to stick to be successful?
Oh man. Okay. So let's start with the first one, which is like one thing. There's so many things. I'll
Give me the most
sum it up.
important thing that you can think of.
You cannot fail if you don't quit. Cannot fail if you don't quit. So just don't quit. But that doesn't mean like, be like, well, it's going to come to me eventually, right? No, you got to work, right? There's a great saying. You ever heard this quote by C.S. Lewis? There's this quote's like, I'm going to pray like there's a God. I'm going to work like there isn't. Something like that, right? Pray like there's a God, work like there isn't. And so that's what you got to do. You got to just work your butt off. Don't quit. It's going to suck. You're going to have some trials, tribulations. Everyone's story is different, but guess what? No one wants to read a story where it was easy. No one wants to read a story where it was easy. And it's like, well, someone's can is someone else's can't, and someone's can't is someone else's can. So don't quit. Sounds stupid, but just remember that when you're working through it. The other question was it the classes, or what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, no. Basically just what is one thing that you would tell them to make a daily habit of that maybe the really ugly portion of it? Yeah.
I watched a TED Talk on this gentleman, and he did it was called marginal decision making. And he talks about how like I'd take 20 minutes every day and I would do this. And he learned like 4 languages. He, for whatever reason, knitted. I mean, it's in there. He talks about it, but that was his thing. And I would say your marginal decision making that I would do that changed my perspective on life and money and people and just everything in my life for the better, is reading and listening to people who are in the position you want to be in. When you're in the gym, when you're driving, music is great. I'm not saying I don't ever listen to music, but listen to podcasts, listen to audiobooks, take that 15 minutes in the morning or at night, read. I've been doing that. I read about 10 to 20 pages daily. 7 books this year. So that expands your mind. Like, it allows you to live multiple people's lives through their words, and you sound like you can, or not, maybe not sound, but think and kind of experience these great leaders: Alexander the Great, Napoleon, Marcus Aurelius, some of the best sales trainers in the world, some of the best psychologists in the world, some of the best philosophers in the world, and kind of get into their mind a little bit. And when you read these things and you hear these things and you're having a bad day, you realize that your day is probably not that bad, and that this is just the sacrifice you have to make for the altar of success, right? So that's what I would probably give to new people.
Man, if you guys didn't pick up knowledge from that, I don't know where you're gonna leave it on the table. But Cam, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. This is it's eye-opening to see the work you're doing. It's incredible. I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there and girls that are striving to be in a position where you're at, where they have a team underneath them. They're consistently writing business, and at the end of the day, they're protecting families. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us on our show. I'm going to leave you the floor for the last couple of seconds, and anything else you want to say, it's totally yours.
I just want to thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to being a big name in the space, but at exposure and actually having someone ask questions and get all these people who are in a lot of them better positions, or way better positions where I am or where I want to be. That's how I've learned so much in the space. So thank you for getting people to see that value and get into people's minds who are in the position where a lot of people want to be. Appreciate that.
Appreciate you, sir. Again, everybody, thank you for joining us. This has been another episode of Behind the Desk, where we do an in-depth with CEOs, VPs, business leaders, and innovators around the globe. Until next time, thank you.